I've literally lost two aunts and one of my former students who I worked with closely in less than a month. Life is so unpredictable. Oh my gosh, life is so unpredictable. And I think a big reason why I have it is, when working in mental health and having family members who've had severe mental health problems, people being committed. Lately, I've been sitting with that on where those feelings have come from, because it's projections from somewhere, right? They say death comes in threes. Well, mine came in less than a month, honey. And I'm not going to go too deep into that right now, because there are some things I want to talk about a little bit later in this video. But I think what has been happening in my life recently has forced me to think about something that I don't hear people talk about enough when we talk about starting over. What happens when you're building a completely new life, but your old life is still happening at the same time? I want y'all to let me know down below your thoughts, because I think we have this very clean idea of what we feel starting over looks like. We make a decision, we decide to leave something behind, we may move somewhere new, start that business, we may change careers, leave a relationship, become a different version of yourself. And then this new chapter begins. Everything magically shifts. We talk about it almost like turning the page in a book, where everything from the previous chapter stays back there. And now we get to focus on what happens next. But life doesn't really work like that, and at least I know mine hasn't. Right now, you're watching me do laundry because I'm preparing to move to another apartment here in Cali, Colombia. And this has become such a normal part of my life. Washing everything, going through my clothes, figuring out what needs to go where, making sure I didn't accidentally leave something in a drawer, trying to remember which suitcase I put something in, packing everything up, moving somewhere else, unpacking it, living there for a while, and eventually doing the exact same thing all over again. And as I've shared with you in previous videos, I always do laundry the night before. There was a point in my life where moving into a new apartment felt like this big, huge event. I signed the lease, bought some new furniture, and kept some of my old. I figured out where everything was going to go, having my nice little feng shui going on. I decorate and I get settled in. And sometimes I move shit around every 6 months or so. But now, I just move into an apartment within a couple of hours and my whole life is basically set up in that home. My clothes are put away. I bring my laptop out for work. I know where I'm going to sleep that night. I don't have to get a new bed. And there's something really freeing about that. I've learned that I don't actually need very much to create a life. I need somewhere safe to sleep, Wi-Fi, some good ass food, because y'all know I be hungry, honey. I need my work. I need some things that make me comfortable. I need a nice view, hot water, air conditioning, and from there, I figure the rest of that shit out. But there is another side to building a life, this way that I don't think I fully understand until I started living it. It's like you can create a whole new physical life relatively quick. By changing your environment, your routines, the view outside your window, the country you wake up in. But truth is, you can't really relocate yourself outside of your own life. Everything that makes you who you are, it still exists. The people you love still exist. The things you're responsible for still exist. Your history still exists. And everyone else's life continues happening while you are off somewhere building something new. And I think sometimes when we fantasize about starting over, there's a part of us that imagines a sort of separation. Not necessarily in a bad way though, because sometimes we do genuinely need separation. We need to pull ourselves back. We need distance from a relationship or from a city, or just from an environment where we no longer recognize ourselves. It's like we need that space to think about, life without everyone else telling you who they think you should be, what you should do, why you should do it, and when. Okay? Damn, might as well give me a shitting schedule, okay? But it's like you need space to think without everyone else telling you who they think you should be. There can be something incredibly powerful about removing yourself from everything familiar long enough to figure out what you actually want. And I know that's been true for me. There's things that I've learned about myself because I left those familiar environments. Every city I've moved to, it connected me with another part of myself. And there's decisions that I've made because I finally had enough distance to hear myself clearly. And it's like there were versions of me that probably would have never existed if I stayed in environments where everyone already had an established idea of who Monica or Moni or Mani or Mo or Nikki or Money Girl who they felt I was supposed to be. Those are all my nicknames, by the way, for people in my life. And I'm grateful for that though, but distance doesn't delete those connections. You could be 2,000 miles away and still be deeply connected to a life somewhere else. And sometimes that connection can feel very, very beautiful. And then there's other times where that shit can feel heavy as fuck. And then there's times when it could be exactly the same. And I think we oftentimes can leave that part out when we talk about reinvention of ourselves. Because reinventing ourselves sounds very individual. What do I want? Where do I want to live? Who do I want to become? What kind of work do I want to do? Do I want to live my life, to just feel emotions? Do I want to be in traumatic spaces? Do I want a difficult life? Do I want a soft life? Because all of those are important questions to ask ourselves. And I really feel that more people should take the time to sit down and ask them and wait for the answer. But the reality is that we're still human beings who exist in relationship to other human beings. Even when we choose a life that can look like it is completely independent. There's still people who knew me before any of this that follow me on my socials. I'm not really on my new Instagram because I deleted my old Instagram and created a new one. And I think it's only a few. It's a few on there, but it's only a few. But it's like those people knew me before Colombia, Brazil, El Salvador, before my YouTube channels became what they are now, before I started moving around the world, before I started my first business, my degrees. At a time when I had language for so many of the things that I understand about myself now. And there are people who knew versions of me that just don't exist anymore. And the reality is that somewhere back in my hometowns and cities that I've lived, those people are still living their lives. Even though things are changing, people are getting old, families are shifting, relationships are changing, people are having babies, getting married, moving, grieving, struggling, celebrating. And there's also people who are thriving in this current environment. And while all of that is happening, I'm somewhere else building this new life. And that creates a very strange emotional experience sometimes. Because there truly are days when my world feels completely full. It's like I have work that I can be doing, somewhere to go, order me some groceries or some food. I could be filming or editing, trying to figure out where I'm going to stay next, looking up flights. Listen, I know Google Flights hate to see me coming, honey. Okay? Because I'm always on there. Or maybe I'm looking for a new nail salon, or I'm trying to find an ATM, or even walking around the neighborhood that I've never seen before. It's like my brain is completely occupied with this life that's happening directly in front of me. And then out of nowhere, my phone rings or a text message comes in. And suddenly I'm reminded that there's this entire other world still moving alongside the one that I'm living. And I think that can happen whenever you make a life decision that's major. You don't even have to move abroad. You could be the first person in your family to start a business and realize that while your life is changing, your relationships with people you knew before entrepreneurship are changing too. You can leave a relationship or a job and begin building a beautiful life on your own while still having days where something from that old life catches you emotionally. You could be a mother and love your child deeply while simultaneously realizing that there are parts of your old identity that you still need to figure out what to do with. And you can finally get the career you wanted and still have people around you dealing with things that have absolutely nothing to do with your success. For me, I could move across the country or to another country. Others can go back to school at a later age, change their entire belief system, or even decide that the expectations everyone had for them no longer fits. Because starting over does not happen like in a vacuum, honey. This is what I think I'm understanding differently now. Because we spend so much time talking about the courage it takes to begin again. And it really do take courage, honey. Okay? It takes a lot of courage. And it's so crazy because everyone that I talk to here, they always say how courageous I am for what I did. But there's another skill involved that I think is just as important. It's like you have to learn how to hold multiple realities at once. You have to be able to say, I love this life, while admitting that today was difficult as fuck. You have to be able to say, I made the right decision without expecting every consequence of that decision to feel good. You have to be able to feel grateful without using gratitude to silence every other emotion. Be able to miss something without automatically believing you need to go back to it. And that last one is very important, especially as I sit here and navigate and think about if I'm going to make that decision to go back to my hometown for a little bit to take care of some business. Can I do it somewhere else? Is it best for me to go back there? What do I do? Because when you start over, especially when you're doing something unconventional, hard moments can make you question your entire decision sometimes. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have moved away so far away. Am I being irresponsible? Is everyone who questioned me right? And sometimes, yes, a hard season is simply an experience that you're having. It's not truly just evidence of you're failing or you're doing the wrong thing. Because, yeah, there are times when you need to reevaluate something. But the truth is, sometimes life is just hard shit, and it's nothing that we can explain about it. And we just have to learn the difference between the two. It's like a difficult week is not automatically meant to mean that you built this wrong life, Like a lonely night doesn't automatically mean you made the wrong decision, or missing someone does not automatically mean that you should return to an environment that you've outgrown. Struggling financially for a season doesn't necessarily mean that your dream is stupid and you shouldn't have done it. It's like we have to stop treating discomfort as immediate proof that something has gone wrong. Because if you're building anything meaningful, there are going to be moments where the new life and the old life is going to clash. And I think that collision is where a lot of the internal work actually begins to happen, because it's so easy to feel good when everything is going well. It's easy to live and move and love living abroad when you're sitting near the ocean or eating something good or the exchange rate is working in your favor. It's easy to feel confident about starting a business when you're booking clients, or to feel secure in your decisions when everyone around you is like cheering. But what happens when life gets complicated, or when the support you would normally have is no longer there, or when something happens at home and you can't immediately be there? It's like, what happens when you have to make decisions without having someone physically next to you telling you what to do? That's a different kind of independence. It's a different kind of independence. Because independence isn't just a sense of, I don't need anyone. I really feel like we do need people. We need community. I think we need relationships. Because we are all interconnected energetically, universally. We need those connections. And that's why they use solitary confinement as a sense of punishment. We need to have that someone that we can call or just talk to and share, I'm not doing good today. But there is something important about knowing that life changes and you can remain present with yourself as well. That you're not immediately abandoning yourself because something became uncomfortable. And knowing that you can recognize what you're feeling is important, and learning to give yourself permission to change your schedules and your life around. And allowing yourself to say, today, I don't have the same capacity that I had yesterday. And I'm going to sit with that and honor it. You can recognize when you need solitude, but then also knowing when solitude is making things harder. Those things sound simple until you're actually living them. And if you're in a season where life is changing faster than you can really process it, this video is sponsored by the 30-Day Subconscious and Nervous System Reset Journal. I created this journal to help you slow down, recognize what's happening beneath the surface, and intentionally work through the thoughts, patterns, and emotions that you've been carrying while you're becoming someone new. You can find it linked below. You can also check out the different reviews on my website of people's experiences with it. When you're away from everything familiar, there aren't as many automatic comforts. There isn't necessarily a friend who could just pull up on you, or you might not know the language well enough to communicate exactly what you need somewhere. There's not always a family member down the street, It's something to really think about. It's like the longer I live this way, the more I think home has had to become something I know how to create within myself. And I have. It's not a specific place. Because the reality is that those places are not always going to be there. Things can always change, from a relationship to a job, someone's role in our life, our body, our finances, our dreams that we once had. And then you have to figure out what remains when those external structures shift. And, that's why I think starting over can be so revealing to us. It can help us understand better. And a new beginning doesn't just show you what you want. It shows you what you have been depending on and where your comfort comes from and what you tend to do and reach for when you're overwhelmed. It shows you a lot. It shows you a lot because there are experiences that take time to become wisdom. It's like we oftentimes want to understand everything immediately while we're still inside of it. It's like we want to know why it happened, what we're supposed to learn. We want the breakthroughs, we want the new plans and the 5 steps to help us do X, Y, and Z. Even when someone who has spent a lot of your, life figuring things out, sometimes figuring things out becomes your own personal way of coping. And it's like, if I can understand it, I can control it. If I can make a plan, then I can do it, But some things in life just don't work like that. And some things you have to sit with that shit for a while. And it's like some seasons need to be experienced before they can be explained. And that's the part of what this season is asking from me. It's not asking for me to make another big decision, It's not giving me the sense of, immediately figuring out the next 6 months of my life. I really feel that some of this is just supposed to be internalized. Maybe I need to allow what I'm experiencing to actually become a part of me before I decide what it means. And that is uncomfortable for someone like me because movement is something I understand. Y'all know I'm an Aries, honey. I move. And when I move, just like that. But I move fast as hell. And I'm good at movement. Give me a problem and my brain immediately starts looking for the next move and a solution. It's like I'm looking for the options, how much it costs, where to go, what I need, what's this, what's that, what's the backup plan. And that skill has allowed me to create this life where I'm at now. But I've also been learning that movement and processing are not the same thing. You can keep moving and still carrying something you never actually gave yourself time to understand. And it's like you can become incredibly productive while something underneath you is asking to be acknowledged. And that's probably one of the most interesting things of this period in life. There's so much external movement that's happening around me. And internally, I'm becoming much slower now. I'm asking myself different questions and not just the question of where do I want to go next. I'm asking the types of questions of what is this life doing to me and for me and with me? Who am I becoming because of everything that I've experienced? What am I learning about myself when there is no familiar environment telling me who to be? What do I actually value now or care less about? What deserves my energy and what doesn't? And that's one of the gifts of being away from everything that you know. You know, it's not that the distance fixes everything, but it can make certain things louder for you to be able to hear because you're away from all the noise. And when you remove that noise, you can hear yourself differently and more efficiently and more clearly. And sometimes the things that you hear, they're things that you weren't expecting. You just weren't expecting it. And it's like you could realize like a beautiful life is still a human life. And that's what I want people to understand most. Because when someone starts over and their life begins looking different, people can assume that the goal was to just escape difficulty. At least with living abroad, there's this idea that because the rent may be cheaper or because there's a beach nearby or you can walk outside and experience another culture, somehow everything becomes easier. Now, some things do get easier, but a lot of shit get harder. You know, for me, I didn't leave because I thought I could build a life where nothing bad ever happened. I just wanted a life that felt more like mine and explorative, and at the same time, save money. And those are different goals. You know, I can have a life that feels aligned with who I am and still experience these losses that are happening around me. But that's life. And I don't think I fully understand sometimes what life be asking me until I sit down. And it's okay to not understand it right in the moment when it's happening. You know, because sometimes we need enough space and distance to just allow some things to settle and internalize. Because building a new life doesn't mean leaving your old life behind like it never happened. Sometimes it means learning how to carry both. And lately, I've had to learn what that looks like in a way I wasn't expecting. So before we finish this video, I want to share a little bit more about what's actually been happening with me these last few weeks, because I think it explains a lot why this has been sitting heavily on my mind, and I'm sure others will be able to understand. If you're not already subscribed, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button, like the video, share, hype the video, whatever. Because if you rock with me, I appreciate you for real. Because in this world that we live in, there's a lot of secret animosity, hate, and all this other jazz. And I ain't got time for that shit. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. But yeah. I was just sitting here reflecting on just life and just laying out here in the futon, observing the landscape, and
I just got so emotional out of nowhere. And I realized I haven't been grieving proper. I don't want to say properly because there's no right way to grieve. But I've literally lost two aunts and one of my former students who I worked with closely in less than a month. Life is so unpredictable. Oh my gosh, life is so unpredictable. We can think we know what things are going to be like, and it turns out to be nothing like that. Like, he didn't even make it to his 21st birthday. And he's not my first student I've lost. I've lost like 7 students. And all of them I worked with directly. And I think that was another reason why I had to get out of education too. Like, the system of education in itself is stressful, but I get very emotionally attached to my work. And it's like my students become like my kids. And I'm just sitting here, and it's like, when you have these moments and you're going through your grief, it's like, I shouldn't be complaining about anything. As long as there's breath in my body, I still have opportunity. I still have a chance. All is not lost. And I'm sitting here and I'm reflecting on, what is the theme of this season of my life? Like, what's the lesson of this season? And I really feel like I intellectualize a lot of things. I have a lot of Aquarius placements. I intellectualize my feelings a lot of times too. Like, everything doesn't have to have a reason. Everything doesn't have to have an explanation just to, get me out of the feeling and not have to experience it. And this season of my life is truly about knowing how to sit with my emotions. And I think a big reason why I haven't is, when working in mental health and having family members who've had severe mental health problems, people being committed into institutions, things of that nature, I know how feelings and emotions can throw somebody over. And I think a big part for me, I've never wanted to look like I don't have things together, I don't know why it's always been a fear of mine of, someone looks at, my life, or, they question or whatever. Oh, she's into spiritual stuff. She, talks to ancestors. Oh, she likes tarot. Oh, she's mentally ill. She's crazy. And lately I've been sitting with that on where those feelings have come from, because it's projections from somewhere, right? And realizing it's still a lot of my childhood upbringing that's speaking. Those are all things that I would have dealt with in my judgmental homes, and I still lack a little bit of confidence in showing that side of me. And I think that's why I really love Nina Simone's song, Misunderstood. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. And I think that's why I take a lot of things personally, especially, when strangers try to make assessments of things, and it's like, please shut the fuck up. Just shut the fuck up. But I know I need to process through my emotions, because I don't want to have to deal with a crash out. My 2 aunts that passed away. They were always so good to me. When I got into it with family, my auntie was like, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I love you, Life comes at you fast. It comes at you real fast. And it's like, we got to make the best of it, We got to make the best of it. So I'm going to just lay out here, reflect, and feel. Because it came out of nowhere. I was just looking at the mountains, and all of a sudden I just got so emotional, and I'm like, where did this come from? I gotta grieve. I gotta grieve. And I need good energy sent my way, the same way I send it out, I don't ask for a lot, but I am asking. I'm asking now. As I learn how to feel these emotions, it's been a lot happening in a short amount of time. I'm figuring it out. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna master this shit, That's how life is, It's all a part of it and how we deal with it. And so this is the season that, I make sure my titties don't pop out. But this is the season that I'm in, This is the season that I'm in. What India.Arie say in her song, this is the life I know. The life I know.